Today, we have Finance Minister sharing candidly the current situation of foreign reserve fund in the country, and he also shares importance of it in the context of macroeconomy and trending behavior of microeconomy and its urgency to change favorably.
Our expert team from RMA, Minister of Finance, Druk Holding and Investment, and Minister of Economic Affairs, we have 4 teams put together, and they are working on economic contingency plan as to how we should be responding to this kind of a situation. But one thing that we should understand is that having witnessed this kind of a situation where our foreign currency reserve is on a downward trend, is drawing down day-on-day basis, it doesn't mean that we are not concerned. We are deeply concerned. But I think as we try to intervene, as we try to drop the measures to respond to this kind of issues, I think we need to go in a holistic manner. So when I say that we need to go in a holistic manner, first of all, I think doing away with imposing import restriction on the non-essential item is not only a solution. This is not only a solution, because this is going to create a panic in the society.
Yes.
This will create economic disruptions, and this will have a lot of upheaval kind of effects in the market. So for that matter, as in when we talk about rationalizing the import, I think everyone should play their part, and the government also should be watchful on what are the key essential things we need to do, we need to import, and what are the things that we can, at this point in time, we can do away with for the time being until we improve with our reserve position.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I think we also need to devise an appropriate strategy where we can replenish our foreign currency reserve. So I think the responsibility of the government is not only to protect the reserve from depleting and from worsening further, but I think for the economy to function as usual, it is also our responsibility to devise strategies where we can build on the reserve, replenish our reserve. So when you talk about the replenishing reserve, there are many ways and means. First of all, I think we need to see that what are the things that we can produce with our own capacity, with our own available resources within the country. We need to change the consumption behavior of our people, because people tends to prefer the foreign made good over the locally available goods. So basically now, if you compare 5 years ago and now, I think Bhutan has come a long way under the guidance of His Majesty, that now our people are able to produce many things, be it a food item or non-food items. A lot of CSIs have grown to their fullest potential, where they can produce certain things. So for that matter, I think our Bhutanese, as a Bhutanese, we should learn to buy Bhutanese-made products. So that is one means to protect our reserve from deteriorating further. But at the same time, we also need to explore what are the low-hanging fruits and opportunities for us, in which area we can leverage our export. So we need to identify those critical points. Economy at large, like how can we improve, how can we make our economy resilient when you keep the momentum of the growth. At the same time, how can we fix the macroeconomic parameters and the fundamentals? So the team is working on that. So for that matter, we have already given our own suggestions as to what needs to be done immediately in the short term, what needs to be done in the medium to long term. During such crisis, having a reserve to last for 14-15 months is an impressive gain for us, I'll tell you. If you talk about Sri Lanka, needless to talk on that, but Sri Lanka reserve has gone down all the way from 11 billion 1 year ago in July 2021 to almost 1.2 billion in July 2022. Okay. Now, if you look into therefore, they don't have a reserve to import, the reserve to make an expense to import making importation for the essential items that could last for even a week. So that's the situation in Sri Lanka. I need not elaborate further on that.
Yes.
But if you look into Pakistan, they have a reserve which can last for 5 weeks. If you look into Nepal, they have a reserve to last for maybe like 4 to 5 months. Now for us, we have a reserve which can last. Which can last, meaning which can last to meet the expenses, for meet the import obligations for the essential items, which can meet for almost 14 to 15 months. I think when I say that, again, like, I'm not giving a false hope to the individuals. We should be careful, and there's no room for complacency. We need to be careful. We need to play our own part to protect the reserve. I'm talking about an essential item, a reserve that could fulfill the obligations for the importation of the essential items. Now, if you go with the current trend of import, if you go with the current trend of the diversity in terms of the import that you are making, I think nowhere in the world the countries will have adequate reserve to meet this kind of demand. So we need to look into all these critical issues where we should be concerned as a citizen. These are nowhere reflected in our essential list. Vehicle is not an essential. So maybe like utility vehicle can be an essential item, but passenger cars cannot be an essential item. Now, there is a strong, the moment you have the upward trend, we experience an upward trend in terms of vehicle import. We also see, in tandem with that, we also see the upward trend in the importation of the fuel.
Yes.
And fuel is an essential item. So that irrespective of the situation, the government needs to fulfill that obligations. So at this point in time, I think the team is already coming up with the solutions, the recommendations. At this point in time, what can be done?
Yes.
So probably you are trying to probe me to make a mention that government will be imposing a ban, temporary restriction on the import of the vehicles, but I cannot preempt the decisions and the submission that the technical expert team is going to make to the government. So I think it will not take that long. Maybe in 2-3 days you will hear what are the contingency means that government will be putting in place to protect the economy at large.
Yes.
And the reserve current account balance being one critical component that we need to address. No. I think if you look into the trading nature of our country, of course we are largely import driven. 90% of what we consume, what we buy from, what we use inside, are basically imported. So from that 90%, again from that total import that we make, I think 89 to 90% are from India again. Only the remaining 10% is from country other than India. So for that matter, I think when you talk about the foreign currency reserve, INR also forms to be a very critical component of that foreign currency reserve for us, because our currency, first of all, our trading partners being largely our trade being largely with India. Secondly, I think probably we should consider that we are blessed with the fascinating vision of our monarchs that our currency is pegged with Indian rupee.
Yes.
So for that matter, I think as long as Indian rupee remains strong, I think we need not be worrying that much on neutral Trump, because anyway our rupee currency is pegged to Indian rupee. So yes, you are right, because the outflow of currency is more in the form of INR than convertible currency. That's US dollar. So for that matter, in order to meet the obligations of that INR requirement, sometimes we have that interim arrangements being made between the Royal Monetary Authority and Reserve Bank of India, where we use their currency swap arrangement with RBI. So we have a currency swap arrangement that could go up to 200 million USD. So at a time, we can get ask the RBI to give us INR worth up to USD 200 million. So that needs to redeemed either in INR or in the form of a US dollar. So that kind of a flexible arrangement is being made between RBI and central bank. So that is basically to meet the short-term cash management and cash requirement of INR. No, I think when you talk about replenishing foreign currency reserve, replenishing doesn't necessarily mean earning from the export proceeds, but replenishing also means that I think this is an opportunity for us to access more support, donor support. This is an opportunity for us to access more concessional borrowings, highly concessional borrowings, taking advantage of our LDC status. Okay, because the lending terms for the LDC is very favorable. So for that matter, we need to take advantage of our status at this point in time. And I think Bhutan comparatively has a very good credit history. We haven't done a formal credit rating, but I think as much as I'm concerned, we have traditionally we have a very good credit history. We have, irrespective of the situation, irrespective of the challenges that we have undergone, we have never defaulted on any loan installments, be it a domestic borrowing or an international borrowing. But at this point in time, I think what we have to look into is no? So we need to be very wise. We need to be wise enough to see what are the benefits that we can accrue if we leverage on accessing more concessional borrowing. What are the foreseeable risks that we might face with the debt obligations that we have to pay back in the near future? So I think as we do this kind of a calculation, I see that the situation for Bhutan is not that tricky, because the requirement for us is not like what is required in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh.
Yes.
The requirement for us is in millions of dollars, not in billions of dollars. So for that matter, I think at this point in time, since dollar has appreciated against neutral, I think if we access that concessional borrowing, I think we will have some gains in terms of the difference in the exchange rate. Because of the difference in the exchange rate, we will have some gains when we convert those hard currency, convertible currency into our local currency, that's neutral. But as when it comes to a future debt repayment, I think it solely depends on our luck indeed. If the economy does well, if the global economy does well, definitely rupee will pick the pace. So when the rupee picks the pace, I think since neutral is pegged to rupee, neutral will also pick the pace. So the debt obligations will become minimal. So these are all my personal feelings, but not that I have
One thing
referred to a literature or something like that. But I think the situation that we are going through, I think these are the means and the measures that I feel that we need to put in place. But we're yet to, again, I'm repeating here that we're yet to hear from the experts, and we'll get their opinion, and the government will get their opinion, and then we will put the measures in place.